Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good noon, good night, good day, good dawn, good dusk, good morrow, good boy.
Smudgy.
Smudgy. Welcome to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Sean Conroy. The other host with me today, as always, Amber Kenny is here.
Hello.
So, lots going on. I will first tell you that I am in New Rochelle, New York. I am at my parents' domicile.
It's late night for you.
It's pretty late. And I was up pretty early. I was up this morning at 6:30. It's now it's 9:15 here. So that's a good long chunk of time. And I've only been in New York been on the East Coast since I flew in on Thursday. So it's not like I'm adjusted to the time zone.
Yeah.
And I will first only say this because I found it amusing. I got up early this morning because my mother, who is completely fine, had a very minor surgical procedure scheduled for today. And I drove her to the hospital. And there was a lot of back and forth. It was very minor, but not minor enough that she wouldn't require general anesthetic, which is a lot.
Well, I can't believe you're even recording. That feels like a big day, like emotionally. Anything.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Well, you know how I love the highs and lows of emotion. That's where I do my best surfing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she had general anesthetic. And there was a lot of like, oh, nobody needs to be there. Just drop me off. I'll walk in. I'll go up and I'll have this stuff and I won't be out until 6 o'clock. So there's no reason for anybody to stay there. And of course, what ended up happening.
And that's a long time.
It is a long time. But it was like, well, we're not going to go in until like 11. And then it takes a while to do this thing. And then it's a lot of just like sitting around and waiting for the anesthetic to wear off. So there's no point in being there. And I drove her there, and then I was debating whether or not to just do what my mother told me and go home, or go back to their house and hang out and wait 7 or 8 hours and come back. I was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, I'm in New York City. I can maybe get in touch with somebody.
See a show. Grab a slice.
I may audition for a musical theater production. Perhaps I can become a star. Look at all these tall buildings. And so anyway, I kind of, moseyed around for a little while, and I got in touch with one of my friends, and she had, I don't know what she had, but she had some tradesman or something coming between certain hours. So she was like, we'll meet and we'll take a walk in the park at like 4 o'clock or something like that. So I had all this time to kill, like literally like 5 hours before she was going to come over to the hospital and meet me. But my phone, which is old now, was dying.
No. Oh no.
So I went and I got lunch, which was a delightful street vendor who made chicken nuggets and French fries for me, because when you're in New York, you should go high end.
Right. They're famous for their chicken nuggets.
You want to get the full experience.
That New York, it's the water.
Hey, pal, I'm eating chicken nuggets and fries here.
It's a very kids menu.
Well, I have one. This is going to be all over the fucking place. I can tell already. But went out to dinner last night because I was here, and several of my nephews came out to dinner along with most of my brothers. And one of my nephews is he's not a weird kid, but he's like a weird eater. Like he will not eat anything.
Yeah.
And so
a lot of kids are, I've heard.
I know, but this is a kid who is like going to be a senior in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went to this Italian restaurant we always go to, and he, you know, none of that food is good, and whatever, whatever. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but I may once in a while give my nieces and nephews a hard time, and which is probably very surprising. And so today I got chicken nuggets and fries, and I just took a picture of it and sent it to him and was like, "Aren't you proud of me?"
Too spicy?
So I ate that, and then I was like, my phone is dying. I got it. So I went back, and it's this huge. I don't know if you know what hospitals are like. Very large, very all
Mhm.
over the place, very confusing. So I had to wend my way through the hospital back to the family waiting room in the area where this surgery was taking place. And I was like, I'll plug in the thing, and because I set up my charger last night, and I was like, I'll bring this charger with me, and of course I forgot that, and I forgot, everything I was supposed to bring with me because it was 6:30 in the morning. So I go up and I plug the thing in, and it's charging. That's how it works when you
Great,
plug it in.
great.
It's charging.
Success.
Yeah,
Yeah, love that. I love a happy ending.
We're not even at the second act yet, and
Damn. We're just setting the scenery.
and I'm there for like 10 minutes, and only back there because I had to charge my phone. Otherwise, I would have been wandering around all day. And somebody comes in and goes, Conroy, is there somebody here for Conroy? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. They're like, oh, your mother's out and she's in the recovery room, and I can take you in there. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And so it just was pure luck.
But yeah, you weren't gonna. So she would just have been by herself,
right? And who knows for how long,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so anyway, I hung out there for the rest of the day, and eventually, this is okay. Now we're past the second act. We're in the third act.
Oh, wow. The second act was pretty short.
It's not a well-written screenplay, and there's a lot of work to be done. But this is a first draft, and yeah,
half of a sentence was the second act.
Because the big finish. No. There's more after this. There's a denouement, but the big finish, the big moment was I go into the recovery room, and this is right after she comes out, so she is knocked out.
Outer
still.
space.
Right.
Yeah.
Her eyes are closed, and I go, and they're like, you can talk to her. She may be awake. I don't know. And I go, Mom, and she goes, Sean. Well, you'll be happy to know I am fine, and I am well aware that Richard Nixon is the president, and it is 1973.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
And I was like, okay, everything's fine.
Was she being funny, or was
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Well, because there's like for a second where you like, wait.
No.
That?
No, because what was hilarious about it is like that is like the classic question that people ask in movies, like, who's the president? But I wasn't even asking that. I was just saying,
said,
like,
hello.
Yeah. And she was like, don't worry, I am aware.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And then eventually we got to leave, and we were driving in the car on the way up. And, there was just little things while she was recovering that it was like, I want some water. Can you give me the bottle of water?
Right.
Can you get my phone out of my thing so I can
And she would have just been.
Yeah. And like, it was not at all a big deal.
Well, and the whole point of you going is to be able to take care of the things that she needs.
Right. And so in the car on the way back, she said, I would have been fine without you there, but it was very helpful that you were there. And I said, I believe there is a lesson here, which is never, ever listen to your mother.
Oh, boy.
That did not go over well. Yes.
So you didn't hang out with your friend, I'm guessing.
No. I just texted her and I said, I fucked up and I can't do anything.
But thank goodness you didn't have a dead phone and were somewhere deep in New York.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if my phone did die and I couldn't get over there? It was just, But so that was the big thing for today.
That's a big thing. But
Was,
she's home and she's doing well and
she's
everything's
walking
okay.
around, everything's fine.
Okay, great.
And
But it's scary. Like even the simplest, easiest
yeah.
procedure, it's scary. It's
Well, and I
scary.
think especially when you're elderly, general anesthetic can be
Mm.
problematic, and I'm not saying she's elderly, she's only 80, but
How would you define elderly? Where does that start?
I used to think that was elderly, but now I feel like that's like the beginning of middle age.
Okay, great. I am very young.
I think you I think you learn things as you get older and you understand perspective better,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um but anyway, so before we even get into things, I think we need to get into something, which is we need to talk about the rules, right? Isn't that the thing?
Pump rules.
Correct.
I was like, the rules.
The rules,
Yes.
the book from the 90s about how to catch a man.
Yeah,
Um,
let's get into it.
all right.
Did you
So
you watched the reunion? Did you watch the Peacock version or the Bravo version?
the Bravo version was the Peacock
Okay.
version, the uncensored version.
Correct.
I wish I had known that. I would have watched that one.
You
Um,
still have time. It's almost exactly the same with like 3 more minutes added to it.
I have to say, it felt
Underwhelming.
pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There was nothing that I was like, oh. It was just a bunch of people acting like assholes.
Did you think there would be a big turn? And
But like, yeah, I'm saying acting like assholes, but it was like acting like assholes on purpose in a way that I was like, this is not a TV show. What is going on right now?
right.
Just attacking each other. And every time one of them would open their mouths, they'd be like, well, especially Sandoval, who is
Mhm.
the worst person alive, according to all of them, they would just be like, you're a worm with a mustache or whatever.
We did finally get Poo-Poo Head, which
Yeah.
is a great line. I like the head of TV PR at DreamWorks came over to my desk to talk about something work related, and I
Mhm.
happened a former intern who now works at NBC Universal. We had dinner and we were talking about Vanderpump Rules, and so she added me to a group chat which has like a ton of people from all different departments, but
Mhm.
the name of the chat is Scandival. And so he was talking to me about something. He's like, "I'm so sorry, I never do this, but I see Scandival. I can't not see Scandival." And so the two of us ended up talking about Vanderpump Rules for like an hour, and it was so unexpected. But
It
he
is
brought
a
up
weird, pervasive thing at this
yeah.
point.
He brought up a really good point that the finale of the season was very good, very well done. Suspense was built in a great way, and like there was no way for the reunion to top that.
Right.
Like it should have just ended there.
Yeah, it just it was it made me feel weird about humanity that this was a thing that everybody has been talking about for so long.
Yeah. And
And
I started actually feeling, I feel like I'm going to get canceled. I have to watch it. But like I started actually feeling sorry for Raquel. I think she might have been like heavily medicated or something because she wasn't reacting to anything.
that was all we were talking about the whole time. Like, what's going on with her?
But
Is she a psychopath?
but I
Like,
think that's what was making everyone get so vicious. Like I think they
mhm.
just wanted to see some sort of reaction.
Well, they
So they
literally
were
were saying that. They were
they
like,
were
look
like
at her. She's not even crying.
yeah.
Like.
They were getting like uglier and uglier and I was
Yeah.
like I don't know. Like this doesn't feel great.
It was gross. It was really gross.
Yeah.
And again, I've said it before, but the biggest proponents of what assholes Sandoval and Raquel are arguably assholes themselves, which is
Yes.
James and Lala. It's like
Yes.
they took such pride in being so self-righteous about the whole thing. And I didn't even know this because I guess I haven't been watching the show long enough. But when they were talking about the stuff with like Lala just climbed over into the back seat and went down on Ariana and was like,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, but why is that not a thing? You know?
It's years ago. We're fine. Sandoval was in the car.
Right. But that was the other thing was like that was the other thing was
This
like
is so nonsensical for people who don't know what we're talking about.
right. But just people like again, not to harp on James, but I think he's the biggest asshole on the whole show that he kept like I just imagine him, in like 30 years the cop is like, "Sir, do you know you were speeding?" And he's like, "But I'm only 65. I'm only 65." Like his excuse for everything that was that he was too young to know better.
I know, and it was always he was 27.
Yeah, something. I was only 24. I had six with your girlfriend, but I was only 29. Like everything that happened. Yes, I robbed a bank, but I was only 43.
Damn it, I'm looking at my phone because I'm trying to find the line that Tess said because it was so good and I want to say it perfectly. But oh man.
I feel like I kind of blocked it all out because I was like it was just weird. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But I will say Andy Cohen had some great questions and some great like Ariana, do you think you will like Raquel after this? No. Raquel, do you think you will like Schwartz after this? No.
No, she was like, yes.
Yes, right.
The best, well, not best. I was just defending her and now I'm doing the opposite. We contain multitudes. But at one point, Lala
the human
was
condition is at war with itself.
Lala was like, Raquel, you need to get your head checked. And she's like, I am.
Yes.
What a comeback.
And no one commented on it.
I know. I was like, wild.
Yeah, you can't fuck around with that shit. And okay, so then the other thing was they kept, this is always my favorite thing too, is they kept cutting to Alien Sheena in the trailer with her White Claw.
Yes.
And all like, I know that the producers were responsible for this, just going, more eye. Because every time they cut to her, she would be like, and that was it. That was her whole reaction to everything. And then, of course, there was the weird coda at the end where they again interviewed Raquel like 6 days later.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, I'm not a genius, but it's like she clearly had been drinking before they started talking. And like,
I didn't bring
producer.
I think that's like the sky's blue. This is a show of functioning alcoholics.
Or non-functioning alcoholics.
Right, of alcoholics.
Right.
Yeah.
And but the producer was like, do you feel like you're not telling us anything you really don't want to tell us, but you should tell us? Like they were just like, how do you answer that? Like, yes. What's the thing you think you shouldn't tell us that you're not telling us that you
the most? And I still don't think she was 100% truthful even in that interview.
No, I don't think so either. I saw a thing. Danielle Schneider and Casey Wilson have a podcast called Bitch Sesh, which is very popular, and they started as a Real Housewives podcast, I think, and now they've been talking about Vanderpump Rules. And I heard somebody talking on there about, and I don't know if this is true or not, but their theory was, it's also hilarious that what I'm saying right now makes it sound like I listened to a podcast about the show that I already am hating, but I don't.
You're deep.
I saw a clip of it on Instagram and I watched it. It was like a minute long. But somebody was saying like, Sandoval is such a narcissist, then that's why he hooked up with Raquel, because he could control her and he
Mm-hmm.
couldn't control Ariana. And I was talking to the person I was watching the show with about that, who was saying, if you look back at old episodes, that's what Ariana was like. He was controlling her, and now she has become more mature and less controllable. And all of a sudden, that's not really interesting to him anymore. So I don't know if
Right.
that's true or not, but it makes
Yeah,
sense, you
it
know?
does. It does.
And the stuff that she was saying was like, when the producer was like, so you have clearly lied about a lot of things,
Mhm.
and
And
you
she's
are
like,
still,
I
yeah,
hate it. I
yeah,
hate
yeah, yeah, yeah.
lying.
So you hate lying, so don't lie. Tell us the
Yeah.
lies and tell us what the truth is
Uh-huh.
of every lie. And she did to a certain extent. Like, I think she was not
But
fully
she
truthful,
seemed a
like you
little bit
said.
scared of Sandoval. Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, it was like she was like starting to come out from under his thumb or something, you know?
Well,
And I
and
just,
if you watch the reunion while she's sitting there, anytime she's speaking or asked a question, Sandoval is staring daggers at her. Like
mhm,
he that's why he wanted to sit next to her, I
right,
think, to help like coach
right. Right,
and
and they said somebody said at some point, I don't even remember when it happened, but they were like, "Did you guys get your story straight?" Maybe it was in that interview
it
with
was
Raquel.
Lala.
Oh, it was
But
Lala. No,
Lala
but somebody else
oh,
said yes. Maybe I think it was Raquel at the end, where it was like the producer was like, "So your story seemed very." This was not it, but was like your story seemed very similar. So clearly, you guys coached each other and decided on a story and agreed on what the truth was and whatever, whatever. She was like, "Yeah, we did. We talked about what we were going to say, and it was
no,
about the fact that they had not been sleeping together for this long period of
but they
time, when in
definitely
fact they
have been.
were the
Yeah.
whole time."
Yeah, yeah,
Which is what everybody had been saying all the time anyway. And that Sandoval was just a worm with a mustache, which
yeah. So the
I
thing
think
that
James loved that line so much he said it 47 times. And if
I
you said to him, "Why would you repeat yourself like that over and over again?" He
he's
would be
like
like, "I'm only 36."
um so this I don't know if this is going to be worth it after all this, but I
Mhm,
thought it was really funny. I mentioned that Allie, James's girlfriend,
mhm,
sort of stands out because she seems like she's not garbage. Like
mhm.
she's like a one of these, and maybe she'll reveal herself to be so. But I said that to Tess, and Tess said she's Marilyn Munster vibes for sure, and I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, there is
The
something
one
off about her.
she's normal. That's what's
Mhm.
weird.
I don't get it. Anyway, I can't wait till season 12 or 14, whatever is the next one.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's 11.
So, James, do you think you will still like Sandoval after this? No, he's a worm with a mustache, and I'm only 39. Okay. What about you, Lala? Will you like Ariana? Yes, we're best friends. What about this clip? You fucking asshole piece of shit. That was when I didn't really know her that well.
The t-shirt comment was pretty rough, but
Yes, I forgot about that. And you know that Ariana's now selling like sex t-shirts online, which is
yes.
so funny. Also, I was like, well, whatever. We don't have to get into like the line. What, just so people know what we're saying, what happened was,
Well, first they were arguing about like once you started having sex with Raquel, did you
did you
have
have sex with
sex with
Ariana?
with
Well, with
anyone
anyone
else?
else? Yeah, yeah.
And they were like listing off people, and he was like, "No, oh my god, no!" Like he's always so like over the top with his nose. And
Right.
Ariana's like, "I know of at least one person you had sex with after you started having sex with Raquel, me." And okay. And now, do you want to say it?
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I'll say it. Oh, yeah. And she kept her t-shirt on the whole time. It was really hot. That was bizarre. Yeah.
Like, great defense, man. The whole room was like, oh.
I don't even understand that. Like,
He was saying that I think in his head, he was saying that it doesn't even count because it wasn't like hot sex or something. Like it was.
I don't know, man. I feel like that's not the right definition of sex. If
I'm not on his side.
if he said, "Oh yeah, but I never even put my penis in your vagina. It was really
Right.
hot." Then I would be like, "Okay, he's got a
Okay,
point."
we can get a lawyer involved.
I'm sure there was other things going on. Maybe there was like a quick couple tickets to Finger Bang City, or there was like
it's very
a
the Bill Clinton defense.
Yeah.
Like very the semantics.
But I get it. But like you kept and it's not like you kept your t-shirt and your panties on, or your t-shirt and your overalls.
No, I can't.
Oh yeah, you kept your t-shirt and that astronaut suit you bought at Party City on the whole time.
It felt, somebody mentioned, I've seen Andy in an interview about it where
somebody interviewing him, or him
yeah. Someone interviewing him. I don't know. I've seen it a couple other places, but that Sandoval was kind of getting pummeled all day, and he was getting tired, and that was like an instance of like the mask slipping, like because in your right mind, like that is not gonna help you win these folks over. Like, what are you doing?
His defense seemed to be to try to take responsibility for things, like to go like, you're so right, and I care about you, and I want the best for you.
Well, he's always telling other people that they need to take accountability. Okay, it's been 5 hours. We're talking about Pump Rules.
James, why don't you take accountability for what you do? I'm only 4 years old. Yeah, all right. So anyway, check out Vanderpump Rules. By the way, the person, it was so gross. It was just disgusting. And I was only watching it because I was watching it with somebody. And even the person I was watching it with, who was like, you have to watch this, you have to see this, by the end of that show was like, we can't.
I'm good. Yeah, I know.
It's bad for our mental health. We cannot watch this.
I know.
The next day, she was like, I don't know. I was talking to her on the phone, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm watching a movie," and I was like, And the movie was like, Paris When It Sizzles with Audrey Hepburn and Holden. It was like a total brain cleanser. Like cute, sweet, loving,
like cultured, like sophisticated. Yeah,
elevating the intellect and the aesthetics. So we'll see if that lasts.
Yeah, I have friends who are excited because I think they're really trying to cash out on this Vanderpump popularity. So there's like inside Vanderpump shows coming out, and I was like, I am good. Like, I think I got all the info I'm gonna get. But I have
that was
who
the
are
thing.
Like excited, but I was like, I'm there.
Bravo has that coming out. Like they were like, this is the final conclusion of the season of Vanderpump Rules, and then at the end of it was like, stay tuned next week for behind the scenes Vanderpump Rules.
Right, I was like, I'm good. I get why they're doing it though, because they're probably getting a lot of viewers. But
I will be watching it. I will be watching it because
you will.
Oh yeah. I hope not. I really hope not. But I am a completist. So we always start the show with a segment we call Vanderpump Rules.
Right.
So we did that. So let's move into checking in and let's find out what's going on with Amber.
Yeah, I had an exciting week. I went to 2 different musicals. That is not a normal week for me. You
usually go to the same musical twice a week.
Yes. Or like 4 or 5 times. On this past Sunday, not yesterday, but the Sunday before, I went to see Cabaret at an outdoor theater, the Altadena
Playhouse.
Music Theater. I'm looking at the playbill as we speak, and it's like a smallish theater company that started out, like, the idea came in the pandemic. It was, how we all reevaluated our lives.
A lot of people would sing at night to thank the workers and bang on pots at a certain time, but these guys were like, fuck that. We're doing an outdoor musical presentation of Cabaret.
Yes. And good for them. And it was really beautiful. It was cold out still, so we were bundled up, but it was outdoors, amphitheater, and it was a really good production. The dancing was great. The costumes were great. The director was a bit of a character in the sense that before the show started, he got up and made a speech, and that's not a part of a play. Like, the directors don't do right. That's not a thing.
The best directors are behind the scenes most of the time.
All of the time, yeah. But he came
except in a chorus line.
Right. But that's not the actual director, Sean. Did you know that? Fun fact.
What are you talking about? No, he's in the booth. He's telling people what to do.
So he did a 20-minute speech, all like fragmented sentences, like not a complete idea to be had. And
this is one of my favorite musicals. I enjoy so much the time between World War I and World War II as the Nazis were coming to power.
And he just sort of recapped the playbill. It was just like, what are you doing?
Like this, this is who's playing this character, like that kind of
shit. And the set design was done by Peter, and oh my god, it's unbelievable. Wait till you see it. And the costumes, those were really good. And
I feel like there's a backstory to this that's like, Gary, you're not allowed to be in the shows anymore, but you can be the director. And he's like, I'm the director. I need to make a speech of some sort.
It gets worse. It doesn't get better. It gets worse. He had us all sing happy birthday to his mother.
Great.
And we were like, okay, fine. Like, truly, I was there with Lampy and Tess, and we were like making eyes. And I was like, I don't want to get giggly. Like, I don't want to be in a giggly place once the show starts and it seems like I'm laughing at the performer. Like, it felt a little church laughter.
There is a woman who is responsible for this entire production. She's sitting in the front row, and she's my mother.
I love that you assume he's German because it takes place in Germany.
Yeah, like that. Those are the people that are obsessed with the play.
Well, so he did a 20-minute speech. The entire time, his wife, who's the one who started the theater company, was standing like behind him. And he's like, finally wraps up, and she's like, I have a couple things to say, but it's going to be much shorter. So she's aware that was inappropriate.
They threw dishes at each other later that night.
And then it wasn't that much shorter. And then, so like, okay, great. You don't need to do
I would like to point out that my husband never mentioned that the music is going to be performed by our orchestra. Say hello.
But so typically a professional play doesn't have the director and the theater owner
for chorus line
give a speech. But I will say, if it does happen, I would assume, and now Cabaret, music starts, curtain opens, ba 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 ba, like, do it. That ended. Both of their speeches ended, and there was.
And now I would like to introduce my son Hans, who will tell you about.
No, there was like
sing happy birthday to his grandmother again.
There was like 15 minutes before the show started. And so it was hilarious because it was the entire audience. It was a nice big audience
Mhm.
were silent for the first 5 minutes of those 15 minutes because we were like, any minute now it's gonna be starting, and then we were like, fuck it, let's just like behave like normal. But the director sat in the front and
Turned around and waved to everybody the whole time. This was my idea. This part right here was my idea.
Sean, it is worse than your bit. I promise you. Yes. B, he would get up in the middle of the show and like walk around to go backstage, I guess to like give a note or like tell someone something. But then he would come back out and sit in the front row. Like, if you're going to do that, stay in the back. Or like, it was such a show of like, I'm directing currently, and it was the last night of the show. Like, what notes do you have to give? It's over. It's done, buddy.
I'm sorry. I must go tell the cabaret dancers that they need to spread the legs wider.
And then at the intermission, I was like, I needed to use the restroom. I was scared there'd be a long line, and I went. The amphitheater was like outside of a little community center, and so the bathrooms were in the community center. And there was I think a single bathroom on the first floor, and there was an attendant who was like, there's bathrooms upstairs. And I was like, great, I'll go upstairs. Unnecessary.
Welcome to the upstairs bathrooms. I just want you to be aware that I had a lot to do with the installation of this plumbing, yeah?
Sean, you are not far off. So it is a long line. There's a male and female line.
Bathrooms.
Outdated. We don't need that, but sure, let's do it. And behind me in line was a woman with her like 6-year-old, maybe 7-year-old son. He was little and he was having a good time. And there was in the corner of the room, there was not the corner, but on the other side of the room, there was a full stage. And so the little kid started kind of running around and he climbed up on the stage and was dancing on it.
Oh boy. Mistake.
Our dear director, I have to like emphasize this. He wasn't with them. He wasn't part of this grouping of people. He walks from the other side of the room up to the stage and says to the kid, "You want to perform on that stage someday? That's a mighty noble dream." And I was just like, I was by myself, like, I can't look at them. He said,
You would be very good as Sally Bowles, but you're no Liza Minnelli.
He sat down on the stage and just like talked to the kid about theater. And I was like, what on earth is happening? But he did say one thing that I learned. That was the same room where they filmed the famous Dirty Dancing scene where Patrick Swayze lifts her over his head.
Oh,
so I was like, oh, that's good to know. But he was telling that to the kid. I was like, that 7-year-old doesn't know what any of those things are.
Look, I will tell you, it all started when I saw an independent theater. Well, really, it was the community theater production of De Nibelungelingen. And when Ride at the Valkyries started to play, I said, this is what I want to do with my life. I'm very excited, and the next thing you know, I'm directing Guys and Dolls Cabaret.
But yeah, he was in the line just like shaking hands. It looked like he was running for mayor. He was like shaking everyone's hand, and the intermission, Sean, was 45 minutes.
Oh, that is insane. That destroys the show. That destroys the show.
And it was because he was like rubbing elbows and like being like, "Hey, that was me."
May I take a quick survey? Would you rather the next show be Oklahoma or The Mystery of Edwin Drood? It's not gonna be Phantom of the Opera because fuck that bullshit.
Well, how could they have the chandelier outside?
Great point. We would have to get. We're thinking about raising funds for a dome.
But it was really great. And afterwards, I was I really wanted to run out of there. I was like, Lampy, I'm scared I'm gonna have to talk to the director, and I really don't want to.
Now we need to discuss the scenes of the show, what was going on, and who thought what about whom, and who later had sex with whom.
Oh, it's the Vanderpump Rules reunion, but cabaret style.
Andy Cohen is here to ask some questions. Herr Schultz, do you think you'll like the Nazis after this? No.
But that is so funny that you bring up the Nazi thing, because I thought that Cabaret was a pretty famous story about what it was about. And I guess it's close to the end of the first act. One of the characters like takes off his jacket and he's wearing a Nazi armband. And it's like a shocking moment for the characters on stage.
Right, because there's this naked man standing with just an armband on.
No, but a lot of people in the audience gasped, and it made me laugh because I was like, what did you think this show was? It's just set in Germany in the 30s at random, like, for no reason.
So crazy.
It really made me laugh.
Oh my God, they did a weird thing where they made it about Nazis. They're trying to make it too current. Just do the musical.
So people.
What's next? What's next? Nicely, Nicely Johnson is in the North Vietnamese army.
Anyway, that was my experience at the cabaret. It was great.
I love that show, and I still sing the Pineapple Song from time to time.
I could see you being in that.
Oh, I was Herr Schultz.
Yeah.
Yeah. If in your emotion you began to sway. That was our senior class show. So are you going to become a subscriber and go to the 3 or 4 shows they do a year over there?
Well, that's the other funny thing is Lampy already knew about this play. Basically, one of our dance teachers is the choreographer, and the choreography was amazing. Mm-hmm. So that's how we even knew about it and we're supporting it. But
welcome and bienvenue, welcome.
She said that she went last summer and saw Hair and liked it. And then this summer it's Cabaret. And then at the end of the show, they're like, and we're announcing in September, we're doing Hair. That's a funny pattern is all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows.
So wait, where yeah. Where is this place?
Hair, Cabaret, Hair.
Yeah. And then?
Hair.
Just so everyone knows, now that we've completed our run of Hair, which, by the way, was about hair. Did you catch that? Did everybody sing happy birthday to my mother? Because every day is a birthday. Anyway, next time, we've now done Hair, Cabaret, Hair. Coming up next, Cabaret. Just kidding. We're doing Hair twice in a row to break the pattern. Avogadro's number.
I love avocados.
I don't even know what that is. No, I mean, I kind of want to go see Hair because I've never.
I will tell you about it because I'm definitely going. 1,000%.
I will go.
But I am not. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
And I will do acid before we go.
Oh, thank God. Lampy, this is just like a little coda. Lampy said that she was in dance class with that dance teacher who choreographed Cabaret. And in the middle of the class, her phone went off. And that never happens. Yeah. And she is the kind of teacher, she would not normally comment, but she was like, it's the director of the show I just did. He just texted, what are you dreaming about today? So exactly right.
Oh my God. What? I have another question. I'm just texting you out of the blue. What is your favorite color to eat? Just say the first thing that comes to mind.
And
Text it
yeah,
to me. Text it to me, and then text a GIF, and then emoticons.
but yeah, that is my checking in. I feel like I took up a lot of time.
No, that's all right. Um, I mean, we do have very strict rules about how much time people are allowed.
Guidelines. Yeah.
By the way,
The network really comes down on us hard.
if we do get in trouble from the production company that runs this show, and they're like, Amber, your segment took up way too long, I will come to your defense and say, in her defense, it was mostly me interrupting her from continuing her
And
story.
also, you will say, "Do we get notes now? Like, you guys listen? Like, what's happening?"
Yeah, if you guys want to be actors, that's a great dream. Um, okay, so I'll go second since you went first.
Gorgeous. Love that order. Hair,
Um,
cabaret.
Amber, Sean, Amber, Sean. um, I was here this weekend really because it was my college reunion weekend.
Oh, right.
And I went, and I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I get a little stressed out at those things, you
Of
know.
course.
I get because it's like, what have you done? It's been so
Mm.
long. It's I'm not saying anybody says that, but like you think that about yourself of like, what have I done with my life? How could it possibly be? For me, it was my 35th reunion from college. And it's like, what the fuck have I been doing for 35 years? Where has my life gone? How much more of this shit can I take?
Oh,
Whatever.
pretty dark.
um, but first of all, I'll talk about two things really. And the first one is I ended up being so glad that I went. And I don't really understand why this happened, but I felt like being there with all these people that I haven't seen in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or some of them even 35 years. And I had never felt this way at a reunion before. I've been to all of them every 5 years for the last however many years it's been since I graduated.
35.
I don't know how you knew that, but yes.
Mathematician.
I love how you
Avocados
I love
number.
how you pay attention to what's going on in my life. Avocados. Um, but I've been to all of them, and I never had this feeling before. I was like, feel like there's a lot of people here who I love and who love me.
Oh, that's a lovely feeling.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like I couldn't quite process it, you know? And so I was very glad about that because, you can't walk away from feeling like you're loved by a lot of people and be like, well, that was a bunch of bullshit, you know?
Right. Or also be like, when's this bullshit gonna end? Or whatever you said earlier. That was really dark.
Right, right. You can't be like, well, I mean, that part was great, but the fucking chicken was
Mhm.
awful, you know?
They're doing hair again.
um, but it was great. It was great. And I had some really just, and I know this sounds stupid, but it's like I just had some good conversations with people in a very in-depth way.
Wasn't
It
just
kept,
like nice weather we're having, like it got real.
yeah, and like, yeah, I can't even articulate it, but yeah, it wasn't like, hey, how have you been? What's your job? What do you do? It was like I talked to one person. Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. This was like the last night. It was Saturday night. So we went up on Friday. We did stuff on Friday night. It was really fun. My class gets in a lot of trouble. We have been banned from partying outside on campus since the last reunion because it was
Oh
too
my
loud.
god,
It
that's
was too
so
loud.
cute.
As 50-year-olds, we were banned
Right.
from partying outside because it was too loud and too
That's
fun.
the best.
um, And I have been, well, I talked about that a little bit, but I want to talk about that
You
more
can't
about
do comedy ever
my
again.
band. But uh Saturday night, we had a big dinner Saturday night and it was really fun. And then we went back to this dorm where everybody was, not everybody, but I was staying in this dorm with a bunch of other people, which that was a whole
That's
nightmare.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was also really funny because you go into the dorm and it's like, I don't know if it was always like this, but the mattresses were about this thick and they put blankets on. I mean, they did say in the literature for the thing, they were like, make sure you bring your own blanket and your own towel because we'll provide them, but the ones we provide won't be great. And I was like, I'll be fine. I don't want to fly across the country with a blanket and a towel. The things they provided were
A washcloth and
inadequate. Yes, deeply inadequate. But so and this is what happened both nights, is we went back to what they, in those dorms, they call them the social room. I'm sure people are familiar with that, where like the downstairs was always just where people partied
Mm.
during the during the week, on the weekends. But so we went to the social room, and I was just really tired. Like it was a long weekend, and I was getting ready to leave, and I didn't really do the Irish goodbye. I kind of said goodbye to a couple of people, but then I was like, I got to just go, or I'll be here for another hour and a half. And so I walked and I got like 15 feet down the hallway and I heard a friend of mine going, Sean, Sean. And I turned around and walked back towards him. And he was with this woman who had lived next door to us senior year. And he was like, this, I'm not going to say her name, but he was like, this woman was just saying, where is Sean Conroy? I want to see Sean Conroy. And he's right here. And then I had this incredible conversation with this woman where she was talking about how, she was from the Boston area and she ended up in Ohio. She was married. She had a couple of kids. She made her life out there. She really liked it out there. She was a lawyer for a while,
Wow.
but then she was just, raising her kids and then unfortunately her husband died, so she was on her own and her kids are out of
That's
the house.
a lot of life. A lot of
Yeah,
life.
and she just was like, I just started an MFA program. I'm writing a novel. And I just thought that was so fucking
That's
cool.
amazing.
And so we were talking about writing and, all this. It just was like, it was like that kind of shit all weekend. Plus the fucking chicken, which was awful. But it
Do you
was,
think do you think the difference was like internal, like you changed or everyone changed or the setting changed or
I think,
a
I think it was,
combination?
yeah, it was a combination, but I think it was mostly, I think it had a lot to do with me being where I am in my life in terms of, I don't mean like that I was in Massachusetts. It definitely had a lot to do with that because I had to be at
Yeah,
the
you had
thing.
to. You just had to.
Um, but just like being, I don't want to get too deep, but like being like more comfortable with who I was, that I could
Totally. No, that
not
makes a
be
lot of sense.
worried all the time and like, what do
Or
people
like
think of me?
defensive
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
questions. You
yeah.
could just like answer honestly and
Right.
listen
And
honestly.
that's what it was, is listening honestly and hearing what people were saying, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um this there was another woman there who, like, I hadn't seen her in 10 years, and we'll get into this in a minute, but 10 years ago was when I did stand up
Mm-hmm.
and many people were just outraged
Right.
at what I said
Well,
because
you're
it
a
was,
shock comedian. You're always trying to
I
really gross people out.
I love to throw around the four-letter
Mhm.
words,
Yeah.
you know.
With your delicate wordplay.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, who here likes love? That's a four-letter word. Um, but and so I knew that, well, a couple things. I knew that people had been angry that night, and I was angry that they were angry because I was like, I went to fucking school with you guys. What are you
Yeah,
talking
we
about?
like
Like,
did crazy things
I didn't
and
realize how deep it was because it was more than just like, oh, this is inappropriate. It was like, he's anti-Catholic. He doesn't like that,
mm.
And I think it had to do with certain people being involved in organizing the whole thing and
Well,
feeling like maybe it
and
reflected on them.
sometimes
And
the loudest person doesn't
oh, it
necessarily.
was totally that. It was like
It doesn't
the
mean the majority
the
thinks that, but
vocal
it's what you
minority.
hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was the vocal minority because, well, I'll talk about that in a second. I'll talk about this thing in a few minutes and
Oh
that
my
thing over
God, we need to make an
so
agenda.
many things.
Jesus.
I have a chart here of like these are the things. But that's absolutely it because well, whatever. But so I was talking to this woman and literally hadn't seen her in 10 years. And this was, I think it was Saturday morning. So it was like right after we woke up after partying all night on Friday night. And we went to have breakfast. And I saw her and I just came over because I was like, I haven't seen you in so long. And we had a nice conversation. And then, because my joke for people over the weekend was like, basically, were you here when I got banned for life from
Oh.
ever speaking on this campus again? And she was like, "Do you?" I said that, and she goes, "Do you remember the end of the night? What happened 10 years ago when I was here?" And I was like, "Uh-oh,"
This
you
is
know
like
what I mean?
serial. Like we're getting to the like actual story. I
Because
love
I
it.
had no recollection of it, and
Mm.
I knew that that night I was angry, and I was like
Ooh.
pounding Jack Daniels
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever.
Not a great recipe.
No. And so I was like, oh no, what did I do? What happened? And she goes, it was the end of the night and it was time for us to go. And we started walking and we were staying in a dorm all the way down the hill and we had to walk down a couple of hills that had grass on them and I had heels on and it was raining. And so we ended up holding hands and just walking down the hill. And it was so sweet and gave me this beautiful memory. And it was really nice. And I was like, oh, thank
Oh my God.
God.
I'm like that. I was like, you punched a hole through
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. No, it
wall. Or
was
like,
nothing even close to that. And I was like, oh, like, and she was like, and now I'm giving that memory back to you. And I was like, yeah, I'll
oh,
never forget this, you know?
that's so sweet.
It was really, yeah, it was lovely. But so here's what happened though is that literally like the first people I saw were a couple of football players from the school. One of them,
It's so funny to. I mean, like, I get why, but it's like funny that they're like still like those are the jocks and those are the
well,
skaters.
specifically at our
No,
school, the
I know.
football players
Right,
were like they
but
were scholarship athletes. They got their own
it's
food. They got
just
their own, yeah, yeah.
funny to like that group of 50-year-olds are the football team. I don't. It's
Well, I'll tell you more about that in a second
oh my
because
God, how
it was
many
crazy.
seconds do we have?
But these guys came out of their rooms and I was staying right across the hall from them and I knew one of them and I didn't know the other one. And the one I knew was like, "Hey man, were you here when he did his stand up the last time we were here?" And whatever. And the guy was like, "No." And he was like, "It was fucking hilarious. It was so funny."
Oh,
I mean, some people didn't think so, but I was like, "Fuck those people." And that was like the attitude the whole weekend was like people going, "That was," and I was like,
it was like healing a wound that
yeah.
he had for
And I was
10
like,
years.
who are the people? And then, of course, I did see the person who I
Ooh.
think was the tip of the spear
Mm.
of the angry people. And it was so funny because this is somebody I knew fairly well in college. Like,
That's weird.
but whatever. Like,
Like
and
you can just tell me if you have a problem, not like banning
yeah,
me, but
right.
whatever.
Oh, she never said a word to me about any of it, you
That's
know?
weird.
And by the way, I should make it clear, like nobody ever said you are banned for life from doing this, but I had done it a couple times before, and now they're like, no, 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 you can't speak. Like we're not gonna,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
But so I don't know if it's official or if it's like, Animal House double secret probation. The dean just has a thing in his office that's like, uh-oh, this is a Conroy year. Make sure he doesn't get a hold of the microphone. Um, but I saw her with a group of people up the hill. I was walking up the hill to go to the cookout outside. Well, I'll talk about that in a second. And
Oh my God.
so I see her up there, and I'm like, hey, talking to this person, talking to that, and she literally goes like this, "Hello, Sean," and I was like, hey, and I'm not going to say her name either, but let's say her name was Donna Bluefin.
So,
This is somebody I've known for years, knew reasonably well, and I've always liked her. I still do.
yeah.
And she was like, "Hello, Sean, Donna Bluefin," as if I would not remember who she was for some
Yeah.
reason. And I was like, oh my God. Like, she's still furious about what
Mm.
happened 10
Did you
years
talk
ago.
about it?
Not with her. But at the dinner, which was on Saturday night,
Which we'll get to later.
I'll talk
In a
about that in a
minute.
second. Yeah. A guy gave us, so the class officers get up and they're like, thank everybody for coming and blah blah blah. And then obviously this is all about fundraising ultimately, even though it's
Mhm.
us having a good time and seeing each other. For the school, they're like, let's make everybody remember how much they love it here, so they'll give us more money.
Mm.
So somebody has to get up. The chairman of the gift committee has to get up and say, this is how much we've given and this is how much more we need to give, and come on everybody, give more, let's get more. And the guy who did that speech is a really nice, funny guy who, and this is why I was saying, like, it's funny that we're talking about the football players. So the football players were called fatnecks at my school. That was the pejorative term for them. And there were so many different social stratifications of like the Wheeler Blondes and the Nines and the Tommy Knockers and
No.
the Beasts from the East. Yeah, and everybody knew like who these people
What
were.
crew people were in? That's so funny.
And he did a thing where he was like, it was like, I forget what he called it. Oh, 11 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where he was like, let's see if we can connect all of these groups through one. Oh, the Hobbits was another group, and Fred's Bank was another group. And he like went through, and he had like he had a pad with a list of all the social groups, and there was like 10 on the first page, 10 on the second page, 10
Oh
on the
my
third
gosh.
page. Yeah, it was
That's too
crazy.
many groups.
Yes. And he went through and he was like, this person was in this group, but he was also in this group, and he knew this person who was also in this group, and whatever. And it was just funny because it was so specific and weird to the people that
Right.
were
It wouldn't
there.
have made sense to anyone else.
It was, yeah, they would have been like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
But it was really funny. And then it ended. Like he finished his speech. He was like, thanks everybody, whatever, whatever.
And then cabaret started.
And then hair. But I went over to him afterwards and I said, and I really did think this. I was like, I almost wanted to go up there and just like walk up the steps to get onto the stage and make it look like I was going to grab the mic just to bother the people who were upset the last time that happened. I thought it'd be funny to do
Mm.
that. And he goes, I got to tell you something. I came this close to finishing my speech by saying, and now for the benediction, please welcome our classmate, Sean Conroy.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
And he was like, if I had said that, would you have come up there? And I was like, absolutely. I think he was afraid that either I would be offended or that I
Ah.
wouldn't respond to it or whatever. And I was like, if you had said that, I would have definitely done that. Although I don't know that I would have given a good or appropriate benediction, but it was very funny, and I appreciated it. But anyway, it was just a good time, and I I felt like I was back in college because I lost my only sweatshirt on one of the nights.
Oh
Like I
no.
put it under a table because we were in the pub, and then I just like left without it, and I went back the next day and it was gone, and but it was super fun. So that's my checking in.
I love it.
Go to your 35th reunion. Feel the love. I literally said to somebody, this is so ridiculous, but I literally said to somebody at the end of the weekend, I was like, I feel like my soul has been filled up a little bit.
Aw, that's wonderful.
It is, but it's like, I don't believe in souls. Like, that's not a real
It's a
thing.
poetic.
Well, poetry. You want to talk about poetry? We'll talk about that in a second.
Yes.
Just dropped my pen. All right. It's time for a segment on the show that we like to call Parting Shots. So why don't we start today with Amber?
Okay, great. My parting shot is actually going to tie directly with our first segment, the pump segment, and my second segment, checking in, going to the theater. And it will begin in just a second. So on Saturday, I went and saw Six at the Pantages with a group of girlfriends because it was Whitney's birthday, and that's what she wanted to do. We got tickets, and it was really good. It was a great show.
I know Whitney.
Great. I didn't realize that we went to a matinee on a Saturday, so I kind of expected a sleepy crowd, and I was wrong. There is a great fandom around that show that I was not aware of. So
now, is this Six? Because I don't know the show. Is this Six from Battlestar Galactica?
It is not. It's like the Six Wives of Henry VIII doing a pop concert.
Oh, okay. So it's like Girls Five Eva, but one more.
Yeah.
Or like the Beatles, but two more.
And they're competing to see who should be the leader, who had it worse.
Right. Anne Boleyn. I'm assuming Anne Boleyn. Is that correct?
I don't want to give away anything, and it is not correct.
I'll give this away. They're doing Hair next.
But but there was like a huge fandom. There was an 11-year-old girl who was sitting behind us who just screamed her lungs out the entire time.
Wow.
Like in a way that was like, at one point Whitney said that she thought I was the one screaming.
I read that an 11-year-old girl was murdered in the theater the other day.
I mean, but she wasn't the only one. There was like it was an exciting, like on fire crowd, which was not what I expected. Right. So that was really fun. But then afterwards, Tess and Whitney are big Vanderpump Rules fans, and Barbara just started watching it. And so they were talking about Schwartz and Sandy's, and we were like, well, it's close. Do you want to just go? And so after Six, we went to Schwartz and Sandy's. We did not go inside. We didn't drink anything. We just took pictures outside. But
which again, fuck that place.
I know. But so Whitney is pregnant. I'm announcing her pregnancy, which is so
congratulations,
wild.
Whitney. This one goes out to you.
But she wanted to do an Instagram post finally revealing that she was pregnant because it hasn't been public. And so she's like, this is it. This is the location. So if you go to her Instagram account, her pregnancy announce is in front of Schwartz and Sandy.
Not a fan. A fan.
It's pretty silly.
I am going to go to Whitney's Instagram and say, Whitney,
disagree.
I am disappointed. Yes.
So that is my parting shot.
I guess I don't know what to do for my parting shot because I already talked about it too much, but I will say that I flew to New York from LA, and I know I've said this a million times.
Not a fan of the process. I think it's actually
gotten worse. I feel like it's gotten worse. That said, let me say that. Well, I'll talk about that in a second. So I show up to the airport
Uh-huh.
and I you have to wait online for an extended period
In
of
line?
time. No. I was trying to get my computer to boot up and go on the internet, so I was waiting online. Yeah, and it's like it's a bunch of different things. It's like they set it up to do that thing where you think you're at the end of the line, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you see that there's twice as
Twist.
long
Yeah.
at the end of that, and whatever. And then there's also a thing where several of the security guards will like open this thing and make people go through there, and then make their. But the thing that really bugged me was how they kept insisting, like, okay, tighten it up, like get closer together. And yeah, which is like, no, I don't want people on
Yeah.
top of me.
We also just
And yeah,
pandemic,
no, that's
is
what I
that
mean.
ringing any bells?
Right. And you were supposed to be side by side with the other line. Like there was nothing in between.
Oh.
There was room enough for one line, but they were forcing everybody to do two lines in that amount of space. So you had people right up against you, right in front of you, and right next to you on either side.
Claustrophobic.
It sucked. And the guy behind me kept getting too close and bumping into me from
Ugh.
behind. And I just want to be like, dude, you
Just
will get
look.
there.
Yeah.
Like, relax, step back. And about four times, I just started to turn around. I was like, no, I
don't
don't want to
start
get into it.
anything. Yeah.
And when we got to the end of the line, and this is the other thing, is that everybody is so worked up because it's so crazy that if
Mhm.
something pops off,
It
it's just going to be mass
yeah.
chaos
Yeah.
immediately.
It's an excuse to
Right.
get rid of all this pent up energy.
I'm just going to fucking mosh pit and start punching people in
Mhm.
the face, you know? But you get up to the front and, there's all those trays and you have to take out your computer and take out your laptop and take out
Mhm.
your other computer and your other laptop and take out your third computer. And why did you bring a desktop? And, all that
Totally.
stuff.
And I know we've talked about this before, but it's also really annoying because it's like every airport is different and they don't tell you what it is. And so
And they think you're an idiot for not knowing.
right. So like if you do take out your laptop, if you're at a certain airport, they're like, put your airport back,
Yeah.
put the laptop back in. And I'm like, what? I'm trying to be efficient. But anyway.
So I put my bag down and I think I grabbed 34 trays because that's how many I needed to whatever. And before I can even put the trays on the thing, there's this much space behind my bag. Everything else is full forward from my bag. There's this much space behind my bag. The guy behind me clunk puts his bag down so that I'm gonna have to wait now until the stuff moves up and my bag can move on. His stuff is right next to me. How am I? And I just turned and I was like, "Sir,
Can I please
I
put my stuff
I
down?
know you want to get there quickly. We all do, but can you?" He was like, I'm sorry," and he moved it away. And I was like, "Okay, I'm glad I didn't punch that guy in the face
Yeah. And I'm
because
glad that he
whatever."
was receptive.
And then I get to the front and I'm like putting my stuff back together, reassembling the computers and like
Mhm.
wiring them together and all that stuff.
Getting the bomb in order.
Hey, don't say bomb on a podcast. I love it when you turn into an evil villain. And he sees the book I have in my bag, which is I forget the name of it, but it's David Milch, who wrote created Deadwood and created NYPD Blue. Just a fucking amazing writer who is like a personal hero of mine. I just love his attitude, his style, his joie de vivre, his affection for the musical Hair. Like, I think all of those things are so. And unfortunately, he's been affected very badly by Alzheimer's for the last several
Hmm.
years. So he wrote a memoir and he's lived kind of a crazy life because he's been incredibly successful, but he's also like gambled all his money away and was a drug addict and, um, and he sees the book and he goes, "Oh, it's a good book. I like." He goes, "I worked with David Milch," and I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Are you a writer?" I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Oh, so you're on strike right now?" I was like, "Yeah, I am. I'm like whatever." And then he's like sitting next to me as I'm starting to
And
put
you're like,
this
now we're
together.
best friends.
Well, but no, but what was cool was finally I go, "So you're involved in the business as well?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, I said, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm a director. I'm retired now, but I directed a lot of NYPD Blue, and I
Oh,
directed."
wow.
I was like, "Holy shit!" So the point is,
Be nice to people. You don't
yeah,
know.
you never
Yeah.
know who the guy you want to punch actually is. So that's my parting shot: is be nice to people. Oh, the first one was never listen to your mother, and now it's be
Be
nice to
nice to people.
people.
Unless your mother says to, and then I guess you can't.
It fucks everything up. That's
Yeah.
why there
It's
need to
one of
be
those
rules.
logic puzzles. Like
There
they
need to
always
be
lie, but
rules
they
about
always
that.
tell the
Yeah, yeah.
truth.
Because the surgeon was a woman.
Yes.
So anyway, folks, this has been the long shot. It is a podcast. You
Go
have
get
been
some sleep.
listening. Sean Conroy, class of '88. Thank you for being
Whoa.
here.
Wow.
And yeah, hit that like and subscribe. Subscribe to the subscribe, like the like. I know a lot of people posted some comments on YouTube. I'm in a weird position
We'll
where
get to them. We'll get
I
to
love
them.
to. Well, we'll get to that in a second, but
Oh God. Please no, I have to go eat dinner. um, I think it's good sometimes when we do our
just a regular
comment.
episode.
Well, when we do a regular episode A and B, when the comment um segment can maybe
Incorporate a couple of different things.
yeah, so it isn't
Yeah.
just like, yeah, last week you said this, and we're like, yeah, we did. Like I don't,
Right,
I don't know.
You want it to be more of a callback to something that happened a couple of weeks
No,
ago.
no, no. I just mean
You like the episodes where we go 2 weeks ago. You said this.
yes,
And it's
yes.
like, yeah,
I love
you
that.
did.
No, no, just some diversity.
You hate that first week, but the second week you're like, yeah, that's
I'm
great.
like, yeah. Well, it needs to marinate. It needs that week.
Folks, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on The Long Shot.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You took to me on the edge of the surf. You ate too much and your stomach got hurt. Then I sweat like a pig and I ruined my shirt. You were so strong, I admit it. How do I miss you to such a degree? If you know what you're doing, then don't concern me. If I had to suggest, you were caught in the tree and I was below in the cotton. And when does the corner turn into a round? If you're siding so rigid, what use is the sound of me calling your name when there's no one around? I'm just a sucker for comfort, and it's time for me to leave, to practice my cursive and eat lots of ice cream and buy a new weight set to leave in the box that it comes in and draft my new fantasy team.